Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. For those of you all who are joining for the first time, a big welcome. My name is Chantel and I am a book lover, and since you're here, you're probably a book lover too, and so I'm so happy to have you join me today. For those of you all who are coming back, welcome back. Welcome back to this space. This space is a space where we talk about books, where we share our love of books, and we encourage one another to take time to do the thing that we love to do, which is to read. So today, you guys, I am going to be talking about a book that I read in January. It is James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. This was one of my January reads, and I'm so excited to talk to you about this book. I have notes because I am a note taker when I read, so if I'm looking down, it's just because I'm looking at my notes. And yeah, I'm excited. Let's just jump right on into it and have today's book chat, which is James Baldwin. So Baldwin was born in the year of 1924 in New York City. And that's really important because he was very much a man, both a young man and a grown man that was shaped not only by the time that he lived in, but also by the city that he was raised in, or that raised him. He died in 1987, and in 1987, I was sitting doing the math. I was 10 years old, and my 10-year-old self did not know James Baldwin existed. I actually didn't meet James Baldwin until, figuratively, I didn't meet him until I was much older. I think I was in high school, probably the later years of my high school years, where I first ran into James Baldwin, and I was immediately infatuated with his writing style, but I was also captivated and very inspired by just his thoughts. And so I have always been a fan. James Baldwin has always been like a friend to me, and I've loved sharing him with my nieces and nephews and students that I taught, and currently my own kids, because they were reading The Fire Next Time as well. The Fire Next Time was published in 1963, and during that time in our country, as many of you all know, in the 60s, it was the civil rights movement. And so this book of nonfiction, it's a nonfiction work, was really a book that was not only situated in the civil rights movement, but it's a book that kind of speaks to all of the kind of elements that made the civil rights movement necessary. And so it's an important read from that aspect as well. There are two letters. I'm going to set this book down in a second. I know I keep picking it up, but there's two letters that make up this work. The first one is called My Dungeon Shook, a letter to my nephew on the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. And the second essay or letter, or missive actually, is called Down at the Cross, a letter from a region of my mind. And so I'm going to just be sharing my thoughts as I put this book down. I will try not to pick it up again, but I'm going to be sharing just my thoughts on both his letters and this work as a whole. As I said, these missives were written during the civil rights movement, and I have found in reading his words that his words were full of both humanity and humility. I think those are the two words that, as I was trying to think of, like, how would I capture his language, those two words came to mind for me. And we are able to get a sense of clarity from Baldwin as to not only the state of race relations within the United States, but also the conditions that made these relations possible in the first place. And he also leaves us a tremendous amount of wisdom for moving forward based on his own lived experience, and a lot of hope. And this is what he offers, especially in the first letter to his nephew, which is one of my favorite. It's a short letter. I would suggest read it out loud or listen to it. He really is giving just this life advice to his nephew, as if he's like writing to his younger self, but actually he is writing to his nephew, which was actually named after Baldwin, his namesake. And he's showing his nephew, or telling his nephew, not only trying to educate him on how life is and what he needs to look out for, but how he should feel about how life is, and how he should take in or protect, I would say, those truths about himself, and not let the lies of the world to discourage or decay or dismantle any parts of his manhood. And I just think that it is such a text that provides such vulnerability, loving compassion, and truth and intimacy in the words that he conveys to his nephew. In the next letter that he writes, Baldwin kind of goes deeper into his upbringing. In New York, we hear more about his childhood, and we hear more about his relationship with the Christian church, which in his eyes saved him. Religion saved him. He talks about how it both saves, but also how it harmed in a way. And in this one, the Letters from the Region of My Mind, he's really contemplating on these two, I think, religions, the second one being the Nation of Islam, and what they had to give to Black Americans, how they came to be, how actually the state of Black Americans, the history of slavery and of Reconstruction, and all of that, how it came to shape Black identity, both from a individual self, but also from a collective religious self. And he shares his thoughts on both of those. We specifically get to have a recounting of his time where he went to visit Elijah Muhammad, who was at that time, the leader of the Nation of Islam. And he believed, as he states in here, that he believed that Elijah Muhammad was trying to actually recruit him to be a part of the Nation of Islam. And he did not, in that setting, in that meeting, directly say no to him. But what we were able to actually sit with as the reader, we were able to see not only like how his experience went within this meeting, but his thoughts about the Nation of Islam. And he said this thing, which I thought was really interesting, that he understood the reason why they needed to exist. He understood the philosophy in which they held their beliefs on, which was really one of Black nationalism or separatism, seeing all white people as evil or devils, and really kind of being propelled by the hate of not only those people, but the hate of the conditions that, in their eyes, made possible the environment, both the physical and emotional environment of turmoil that Black Americans were in. And Baldwin had a very different response. So Baldwin too understood the plight of Black Americans. He understood the history of it. He understood it personally for himself, how dangerous it was to be a Black man in America, especially during the times where he was growing up. But his answer and his remedy was extremely different. I would say the exact opposite of the remedy that the Nation of Islam found for themselves. And he talked a lot about love. He talked a lot about the human race. He talked a lot about forgiveness. And he also talked a lot about where just the real issue, where it really lies. And for Black Americans to have an understanding of what the problem is, but not to take on a problem that isn't ours. And for Baldwin, at least, he believes that the root problem of racism and the isms and just the hatred that's spewed towards Black people is really rooted within white people's lack of identity and lack of self-awareness. And so I think that Baldwin, through his thoughts, he really gives us some great things to think about. This missive is is written, and in a way it's written, yes, for Black people, but it's really written to white people, to white people, to help them have an understanding, or start to be curious, I would say, to start to be curious about their own identity, their own involvement in this problem, their own pain, their own lack. I think that that's really who he was writing to, and what he was writing for. As there are many, many things that, as an African American person, especially if I was of his time, especially, it wouldn't be new for me. It would be more of like yeah, amen to that. Yes, I get that. Um, and so I just thought it was such a great way to honor MLK Day this year, January 20th, 2025, to just sit with Baldwin. It's a short read. I read it in a day. It's just 106 pages, or at least my edition is. It's also a beautiful read. It's a lyrical read. It's something that you can gather the family around and read out loud or listen to. Actually, Rapper Common does a reading of the first letter, the letter to his nephew, and I'll leave that link in the show notes below, because it's a beautiful thing to listen to. And so I would just encourage you to, if you haven't already, to read it. If it's been a while, read it. A lot of people encounter Baldwin in high school like I did, or in college. And so it might be a while since you have sat with Baldwin. And if that's the case, I encourage you to reread, or to just listen again to his words, because there is just such wisdom, there's such compassion, and there is a great amount of hope that he leaves. And I think that now, more so than ever, and I know that people have said that in generations in past, but for myself, like, that's exactly what I was needing. And so I think that that's the gift that Baldwin still gives us 100 years later, almost to from when he was born. So James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, read it. Let me know what you think. I give this a 5-star. I know that this is a read that I will come back to many, many times in my life. It probably is a read that's worth reading just every year, just as a marker to see, okay, where are things, and how have we grown? Hopefully we are moving forward as a country, and we're not moving backwards. But this book is a text that's a great marker for us, and I think it's an important work for us to read and to consider. So, The Fire Next Time, that's the thing. This was one of my nonfiction books for January. I have another one that I will be popping on and just sharing my thoughts with. And I just thankful to Baldwin, thankful for Baldwin and his words. If you do like his work, or if you're new to Baldwin, I'm going to leave in the notes below other works that Baldwin has written. He has also done some short stories, a novel, and also a play, one or two. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will be sure to link information where you can learn more about him in the show notes below. That is all I have for you guys. Today's was a little short and sweet, so thank you for hanging out with me. Enjoy wherever you are. I hope that you are warm. It is cold here, and I hope that you are safe. And as always, I hope that you are reading. Stay reading, you guys. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done already. I am trying to grow this channel and to get more people to know that I exist, and just build this community of book love that's much needed. So thank you for liking, subscribing, and passing this along to a friend that you know who also likes to talk about books, because we are out there. Yes, and we need to talk about books. Until next time, you guys, stay reading. Bye-bye.